Welcome to Larry King Now, and our special guest today is author and success expert, 25-year-old Alex Banayan, who hacked his way onto The Price is Right, used the earnings to travel the globe tracking down some of the world's most successful people, including Warren Buffett, Lady Gaga, Maya Angelou, and me, in an effort to learn what they all had in common. He compiled his findings into a book called The Third Door: The Wild Quest to Uncover How the World's Most Successful People Launched Their Careers. Alex has spoken at Apple, Nike, IBM, and Harvard, among others. The Third Door is available June 5th. Thank you for coming, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Let's track all this down. What does the third door mean?
So after spending 7 years studying the world's most successful people, I realized while on the surface, Maya Angelou and Steve Wozniak might be completely different. At the core, their stories are the exact same. And there's almost this common melody to it. And the analogy that came to me is that they treat life, business, and success just like a nightclub. There's always three ways in. There's the first door, where 99% of people wait in line hoping to get in. And that's where the line curves around the block, right? And then there's the second door, the VIP entrance, where the billionaires and the celebrities go through. And school has this way of making you feel like those are the only two ways in, right? You either wait your turn or you're born into it. But what I've learned and what you know is that there's always, always the third door. And it's the entrance where you jump out of line, run down the alley, bang on the door 100 times, crack open the window, go through the kitchen. There's always a way in. And it doesn't matter if that's how Bill Gates sold his first piece of software or how Lady Gaga got her first record deal. They all took the third door.
You went on The Price is Right. Why?
When I had this dream of writing this book, I thought the easy part would be, just calling up Bill Gates, interviewing him. I thought I could do that in a couple months because I was a naive 18-year-old. The hard part, I figured, was getting money to fund the travels. I was buried in student loan debt. I was all out of bar mitzvah cash. So there had to be a way to make some money. So 2 nights before my final exams, freshman year of college, I found tickets to The Price is Right. And that's when I thought, what if I just go on the show and win some money to fund this dream? And so, Larry, that night, I did the logical thing, and I pulled an all-nighter to study. But I didn't study for finals. I studied how to hack The Price is Right.
And how did you do it?
So they make it look very random, right? Larry, come on down, as if they pulled your name out of a hat. But what I learned is that there's a producer who interviews every single person in the audience. And then there's an undercover producer who then confirms or denies the original producer's list. So I realized if I study the entire night on how to get through that opening round and get onto the show, I could sort of wing it.
And you have to dress weird?
Yeah, so I had a big black puffy jacket, a bright red shirt. I pretty much looked like a chubby toucan, and it was perfect.
How much you win?
I won, so the sailboat that I won was $20,000. I sold the boat, got the cash, and that's how I funded the entire book.
All right, a lot of successful people. What was your criteria?
So I don't really believe in, there's all these lists of 100 most successful people, and I don't really believe in those algorithms. So what I did is me and my best friends one night got into my room and I asked them, guys, if we could build our dream university, who would be our professors? So one friend called out Bill Gates would teach us business, Lady Gaga would teach us music, Larry King would teach us broadcasting, Jane Goodall would teach us science, Maya Angelou poetry. So we just created this list, and the idea was that I believe if all these people came together, not to promote anything, not for press, but really just to share their best wisdom with the next generation, young people can do so much more.
How'd you track down Warren Buffett?
That's a very embarrassing story because I spent 8 months handwriting letters to him, and he would actually handwrite responses back. But I would write a 2-page letter, and he would write a 2-sentence response. But after 8 months, his assistant finally felt bad for me and gave me tickets to his shareholders meeting. There's 30,000 people there.
I know.
Bill Gates is sitting in the first row, and we get to the shareholders meeting, me and my 5 childhood best friends. And we knew there was a Q&A section at Buffett's shareholders meeting. But it was a lottery. 30,000 people there, 30 asked questions, so 1 in 1,000 odds. But me and my best friend, sort of like The Price is Right, figured out there had to be a way to make this possible. So we found a loophole in Buffett's lottery, went there, and out of the 6 of us, 4 got winning lottery tickets.
Loophole? What was the loophole?
So with Buffett's system, this is very funny to be sharing this out loud, but with Buffett's system, he made 12 different lotteries all around the basketball arena. You know, you can't have one and have a long line. So what we realized is that not all 12 of the buckets were equal. The one in the front had a giant line where thousands of people were entering, but the one all the way up in the rafters, no one wanted to enter because the people up there didn't want any attention on themselves. So the odds weren't the same, and that's how we found the loophole.
And okay, you got on. You got to ask a question, but how did that get you to get him into the book?
So with the book, there's different interviews. There's people who we had sit-down interviews, like with Gates, it was in his office, very professional. With Buffett, it was doing the interview questions live in front of the 30,000 people. So I had the questions I wanted to ask him in his office, and I had my friends read them out loud in front of the entire stadium.
Our guest is Alex Banayan. More stories from the world's most successful people after this, and how their journeys can help you achieve more in your life. That's next. Stay with us. Okay, our guest is Alex Banayan. The book is The Third Door. It's a great read. All right, I'm one of the people you found me at Whole Foods. Did you know I'd be there?
No, I had no idea. And the craziest thing is I was sitting on the sidewalk, and I was probably one of the saddest moments of my journey that day. And I was sitting with my friend Corwin, and we were complaining about how we don't know how to interview people. And we were complaining and complaining and complaining. And right then, it's still one of the craziest miracles of my life. A car pulls up, the door opens, and out walks Larry King.
And you accosted me.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. It was a lot of pent-up youthful energy that came out at you all at once.
Where did we do the interview? At the bagel store?
So we did it at the bagel store, and Cal Fussman, one of your friends, gave me one of the best pieces of advice. He said, don't treat it like an interview. Come to breakfast and listen. And it was one of the best interviews.
Who was the hardest to get to?
Bill Gates took 2 years, and my entire focus was on him. It went to the point where I was 18 and 19 years old, and I had pictures of him taped up above my bed, on my car dashboard. It was my #1 dream, and it took an entire 2 years of work to make it happen.
So all this book took how many years?
It was a 7-year journey. So it was about 4 years of doing all the interviews, and then another 3 years of writing it as a narrative to make it a page-turning.
Well, $20,000 can't go 7 years. How did you earn a living?
So, as you know, with nonfiction books, publishers give an advance. So halfway through that, I got the advance. And I also started doing a lot of speaking. And what I realized is companies and organizations want this wisdom for their employees and their attendees. So that's been helping pay the bills, too.
Didn't people say to you, you're a young guy, why should I spend time with you?
I thought the same thing, but what I realized is all the people who did interviews for the book didn't do it because I'm, the New York Times. They did it because they believed in this basic idea that one generation's hindsight can be another's foresight.
Give me a simple explanation of what makes Bill Gates special.
One of the strongest and most strategic minds alive today.
Maya Angelou, the late Maya.
Deep, 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 profound wisdom.
Steven Spielberg.
Visionary.
Lady Gaga.
Wild personality matched with a very powerful leader.
Quincy Jones.
Understands how the world works better than anyone I've met in my life.
Really?
Really, and I mean that.
Now, how can this book help the viewer?
So the amazing thing about this journey is that not only did it equip me with all of these very practical tools, right? The best-selling author Tim Ferriss gives you cold email advice. You gave incredible interview advice. So there's all these tools in your tool belt from the book. But the most powerful thing that I've realized looking back upon the book is really that it changes what people believe is possible. And what I learned is that when you change what someone believes is possible, you change what becomes possible. And that's the most powerful thing it can give you.
Is risk-taking essential? Does risk-taking run through all of these?
Risk-taking runs through all of these people, but I realized not the way I thought. I thought risk-taking was about being fearless, jumping off of the cliff and figuring it out. Every person I interviewed was actually tremendously scared in the beginning. So they weren't fearless, but they were courageous. And the difference between fearlessness and courage is fearlessness is jumping off the cliff. But courage is acknowledging your fear, analyzing the consequences, and deciding you're still going to take one step forward anyway.
You have to get off the porch.
Yeah, you have to. You have to knock on doors and you have to make it happen.
You also heard that most people never say they've made it. That's really true. I still wonder what I'm going to be in life. I'm still a potential. That's true. I never sat down one day and said, wow, made it.
That's amazing.
These people also still strive, right?
You look at Bill Gates. He created the most valuable corporation on earth, revolutionized technology with software, and still he, could have gone and had every material luxury on earth. But he decided to step down from Microsoft and create the largest philanthropy on earth, and not just give away the money to his friends, but he put in tremendous amounts of research and work into making sure that he got the ROI for every dollar he could. He is still one of the hardest working people you'll meet, which is astounding.
Any outliers, any people whose success didn't fit into your hypothesis?
What I've realized is the third door is such a overarching mindset that every single person I spoke to at some point had to take it. And truthfully, if you look at someone like Ivanka Trump, who, has accomplished a lot on her own, but she was also born into a certain segment, wasn't someone I was necessarily interested in including in the book and interviewing. So it might have been a self-selection process too.
Coming up, is our definition of success flawed? We'll talk about changing ideas of success and the potential downside to prosperity. More with Alex Banayan, author of The Third Door, right after this. We're back with Alex Banayan. His book is The Third Door, The Wild Quest to Uncover How the World's Most Successful People Launch Their Careers. And I'm very happy and proud to be in this book. How do we define success? Can a bus driver on the street be defined as successful and the guy who's the CEO of that business not successful?
So when I started out on this journey, I had the same definition of success as almost everyone, which is I thought, the more powerful you are, the more wealthy you are, the more successful you are. The Forbes list idea. It wasn't until I met Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple Computers, that he completely redefined my understanding of success. He helped me realize that, if you put Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak side by side, most people will say Steve Jobs was more successful. But Wozniak helped me realize that success has much more to do with how you define it, how you look within yourself and ask yourself, what do I actually want? What makes me happy? And if what makes you happy is driving a bus and coming home at 5 p.m. and picking up your kids and playing catch with them, and you're the CEO of a company and never see your kids, you're not successful. If you're miserable, if you're not doing what you want to do, that's not success.
So should we broaden ideas of what it means? Is our definition flawed?
I believe that the natural human and really Western definition of success, which is more money, more power, more prestige, isn't right. Look, it might be right for some people who want that, but for the vast majority of people who want to be, a mother and working and helping at their kid's school, or a father who wants to be, involved with their community, I think the idea of the more Twitter followers you have and the more money you have is a flawed model. You have to look within yourself and ask yourself what you want.
Are millennials changing the definition?
They are, and when you look at right now, the March for Our Lives movement, or you look at the Women's March, what I've been realizing is that millennials have realized they are the answer for the problem. And what I mean by that is they're realizing the old model of get a job at IBM, work for 50 or 60 years, get your retirement and live off of that isn't the model for today's world. For today's world, you can be the change you want to be. You can start your own business online, and you can really take your life into your own hands.
Very much individualistic.
Right, and it's more similar to maybe how you grew up than how my parents grew up, in the sense that you go and you knock on doors and you make opportunities happen for yourself.
You talk about people being afraid of failure. Are some people afraid of success?
I think they are, but they don't know it. I think a lot of people who I've come across, not necessarily in the book, but in the process of writing the book, deep down, for whatever childhood baggage they have, are afraid of being the person they know they can be, so they self-sabotage.
Did you find that a lot of people had to give something up to attain what they wanted?
Every single person. Now, what I've learned, though, is while, sacrificing, here, I'll tell you a great example. There's a man named Chi Lu. He grew up in a village outside of Shanghai, China, with no running water and no electricity. People walked around with deformities from malnutrition. By age 27, he was making the most money he's ever made in his life, $7 a month. Fast forward 20 years later, and he's a president of Microsoft. It is the most phenomenal story I came across in the entire book, and no one knows who he is, because when I talked to Chi, he said every hour he spends with a reporter is an hour less he has to give back to the world. So he doesn't do much press. And what I learned from Chi is that sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term gain is the essential underlying theme to every single person who's achieved meteoric success.
Are they all driven?
They are, but for different reasons. Some people can be driven because when they were kids, they felt worthless and insecure. Some people can be driven because they have a higher purpose and a higher vision they want to achieve. But at the end of the day, no one's going to make you work harder than yourself. No amount of parental expectation or a boss yelling at you will make you work harder than you want to work.
In your journey, what surprised you?
How kind these people are. Remarkably kind. I think there's a huge misconception in America, especially the movies propagate this, where the CEO of a company is this real, ass who's just yelling at people and, throwing things at them. Not a single person I met had even this hint of energy. They all were incredibly warm, incredibly thoughtful, because I think the truth is, when they were 20 years old, they were going through the same thing, and they remember that.
What are you going to do with all this? You're going to continue to write books? You're going to continue to do speaking? You're only 25. What's Banayan's goal?
My dream right now is to take the third door mindset and to share it with as many people as I can. Because what I've realized is you can give someone all the best tools and knowledge in the world, and their life can still feel stuck. But if you change what someone believes is possible, they'll never be the same. And that's the whole point of this mission.
All right, have you looked at other countries?
It's one of my regrets. I started this book when I was 18. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so I had a very US-centric outlook. And while Jane Goodall is from Britain and whatnot, and Chi Lu is from China, the majority of this book is an American book. And it wasn't until I met Quincy Jones, where he helped me realize I had spent my entire journey looking up at the world's most successful investor, up at the world's richest man. And he showed me the power of looking wide to the far corners of the earth and really absorbing the knowledge and the riches of diverse cultures.
We're discussing the difference between humility and modesty in our final segment, and how to find your true calling. Plus, Alex will answer some social media questions. We'll be right back with Alex Banayan. The book is The Third Door. We're back with Alex Banayan, an extraordinary young man. The book is The Third Door, and as I said, I'm proud to be a part of it. We have some social media questions for you. OJ Pickle Gaming said, if you could give your 18-year-old self advice, what would you say? Go to Whole Foods.
That advice did work really well. If I were to look at my 18-year-old self, I would tell him, relax. It's going to work out.
At AL West 022, is becoming a success, did you utilize your faith in accomplishing your goals? If so, how big a part did it play, if any, in your success?
I believe faith, no matter what your religion is. Faith in the idea that it's going to work out in the end isn't useful, it's necessary. Because if you move forward on a journey without some faith, whether it's in the universe or if it's in God, it's a very lonely and scary journey. And who knows what happens up above, but it feels a lot better believing that someone has your back.
And you can't be a cockeyed optimist, or can you?
You know, it helped me, but it also got me in a lot of trouble too.
McNutt 57, if you could shadow someone for a week, who would you choose and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. Easily Barack Obama.
Because?
I've not only admired his leadership style, but when my dad passed away last year, I reached for Obama's book, Dreams for My Father. And his words brought a comfort to me that I couldn't have expected. So by shadowing him, I would love to not only see the way he operates and leads people and inspires people, I want to see the way he inspires himself and goes within himself.
Sam Rosen, how do you account for the barriers to success that women, people of color, and other minorities encounter?
There's only one picture of this entire book. I originally didn't want to put any images in the book, but I included one image, and it's a powerful image. It's a picture of two people running a race. And one is a white male in a suit, and he has a couple obstacles in front of him, and another is a woman of color. And she has shackles on her legs, alligators in front of her, barbed wire, mud. And the top of the cartoon says, it's the man saying, "What are you complaining about? It's the same distance." And I think that picture sums up that entire question.
Okay, a couple of other things. You said that we get humility and modesty confused. Explain.
What I've learned is that humility and modesty are completely different. Modesty is this facade of, oh, me? No, I'm not special. It's this facade of meekness to almost please others. Humility, on the other hand, comes from within. It comes from knowing that your path has been paid for by others, and that everything that you've been able to do is because your parents and your grandparents' sacrifice made it possible. Humility comes from within. Modesty is from outside.
Is having an ego good or bad?
It's neither.
All these people have some sort of ego.
Of course. It's how you relate to your ego. If your ego controls you, that is a dangerous place to be.
What advice do you give to people who have not made that jump, who have not reached their calling?
Surround yourself with people who make you feel it's okay to take that jump. The biggest thing that holds people back, whether they know it or not, is they're surrounded by friends and family who tell them, "Ooh, I don't know about that." You change who you surround yourself with, and you change who you become.
Your parents wanted you to be a doctor.
Yeah.
What do they think now?
My mom, thankfully, went from crying, Larry, literally crying when I dropped out of pre-med, to now being, the biggest supporter of the entire book. And I couldn't love her more. My dad
passed away last year.
Passed away last year.
Did he see the book?
He saw the book, and one of the final things I shared with him was letting him know that the book was dedicated to him.
Okay, where do you see yourself 10 years from today, Alex?
A father. That's a weird thing to say.
No, why not?
That's what felt right.
Great having you here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to my guest, Alex Banayan, and this is a great book, The Third Door, available June 5th. You can always find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.